This week on the show, we've got a special guest.
This guy, Dave Jordan.
Dave Jordan.
Hi.
None of season 2 has had that song.
Is it the Flash
once.
Gordon song?
Yeah, exactly.
That's way better.
Oh, thanks, man.
Yeah, I mean, it's Flash.
I imagine Foxy was responsible for it.
Yeah.
I was instrumental in the
composition. Well, we have a lot of exciting books to talk about and some less exciting books to talk about. Let's start with the less exciting books.
Oh, yeah, that's my favorite.
Issue 4 came out this week. It has not been read by anybody in this room.
I'm in the middle of issue 2. I intend to read issue 4. And apparently, Max, you heard good things about issue 4.
I did hear, I heard that this was the issue that 1 through 3 was building to. Everybody that read this issue that came into the store today to talk to me about it said they really liked it. That said,
I have no intention to read any of it.
Yeah.
Well, having already purchased them, I fully intend to read that far. I mean, I've subscribed to the series, so I'm going to read all of Axis. But I must say, March to Axis ruined every book that it was in. I will say that.
Now,
it pretty much did.
Do you have to read the March to Axis stuff to read Axis?
No, because
In fact,
issue 1 of Axis, in fact, just had a lot of retread and explaining for people that weren't reading March to Axis. So in a way, it de-incentivized and devalued the first issue of Axis for people who were loyally or like interestedly reading the other tie-ins. I'm just not sure that his heart is in it. I think Axis grows out of the only reason he started writing Uncanny Avengers in the first place, which was to fulfill a storyline that he had started setting up in his X-Force title, which I think he was inspired by, but I think we're scraping the bottom of his inspiration barrel with these characters
3.5
now.
years removed from that?
Yeah, it's been a minute, and the whole after like the story that he wanted to tell with Uncanny Avengers has now been told, and every issue since then has been in service of March to Axis, and they've not. It was a slog to get here.
That's kind of I feel like a widespread problem with most mainstream big team superhero books anyway, is that you're setting up for the next thing, and then once you're there, you're just getting to the next thing.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, you don't actually live in the moment and like explore where you are.
Yeah.
Yeah, I would completely agree with that statement.
So that's why that's not in the top 5. Though, maybe if we had read issue 4, we would be like, wow, it was so much better than the substandard books that preceded it that it belongs on a top list.
Next week we'll come back and apologize and
be
like, never mind.
I'll be caught up next week.
Maybe
Maybe issue 5 will make it on the top 5.
Still on things that... This is like the bottom 5. That's cool.
This is the bottom 5.
Which is weird because I was so excited for books this week, looking at the list and then reading through them. I was like, that was a bit of a letdown. Birthright, issue number 2. So I liked that the first issue ended with a bit of a reveal in terms of who the good guys were and who the bad guys were.
Totally. It clarified the concept. By the end of the first issue, you're like, oh, I know what this book's about.
Mm-hmm.
Second issue, no surprises thrown my way.
Nope, no surprises. The action was kind of boring, really predictable.
I don't care about the flashbacks at this point. I feel like they are hindering the forward momentum of the story, even though they're like the fantasy stuff. Mm-hmm. But whatever, just get on with the current timeline story. Like So he was a little boy. Now he's a big-ass warrior with a bunch of weapons.
Now he's evil Conan.
And he's a sleeper agent for an evil wizard or something.
Yeah.
That's enough. I don't really need to know how he got there. I mean, maybe through occasional flashbacks, but if every issue is half flashback and half, barely tiptoeing forward, I don't care.
It's a great-looking cover.
Great-looking cover. The art's cool. The character design's neat. It's
So
not a bad concept. It's just
it's taking too long to
pacing
get anywhere.
the second issue pacing is not the greatest.
Moving on to a book that has no issues with pacing or concept. Meta Wrath, issue number 2 by Jason Aaron. Jason Aaron is an author that you enjoy.
That is true. I'm on the fence with this book. It's obviously the craft is fantastic. Jason Aaron is a great writer. Ron Garney is a fantastic artist, a great storyteller. It's a bit harsh.
There are moments that make you want to stop reading.
Yeah, there's moments that make me feel uncomfortable to actually have paid money for it.
I took issue 1 to a Starbucks and was reading it, and I really regretted that decision. I felt like I was being judged by everybody in the room.
I'm honestly, I'm not thrilled about any of the characters in the book, and that's never a good thing, really, when you can't get into any character, though it's by design. I'm not big on the killing, and Men of Wrath is strictly about killing in...
everything.
Killing everything. Children, animals, babies.
Everything. Yeah.
And so I'm like, well, what am I latching onto here? Nothing so far.
It's kind of like a peek at a world that none of us can relate to at all, that I'm sure exists. There are pockets of the world that are just filled with bad guys, but that doesn't necessarily mean that it's fun to read about them. Like I said, the craft is impeccable, but
if you go for the shock and awe kind of comics,
yeah, I mean, if you're into
Revenger,
hit
One Hit Wonder,
that
was just awful.
Yeah, but if you're into that, here's a version of those kinds of stories that's actually written well.
That's true. It is really written well. Next up, this is 2 of our bottom 5, is The Humans number 1, which is basically Sons of Anarchy meets Planet of the Apes.
With no humans. Except for the fact that the biker gang is called the Humans, so I feel like we'll get to a human presence or discussion at some point. Or not.
Great art, though.
Yeah.
Really good art. I love the art. The cartooning.
Gorgeous cartooning. Hand-lettered. Hand-done sound effects, and I always have a soft spot for that sort of thing.
I'm actually surprised it's an Image book.
Yeah.
It feels very handmade.
Yeah, it feels very small press.
Oh, yeah.
Almost self-published kind of thing.
I was tempted to put it in the top 5 because it does deliver on everything it promises to be. But ultimately, what it promises to be, not enough.
It promises to be a book that I'm not that interested in based on the genre.
At the very least, it's worth picking up and flipping through because it really is. There's some really, really nice looking art.
Totally.
Yes. And last on our bottom 5, which was also a runner-up for the top 5, we have Nailbiter issue number 7.
The Powers homage issue.
Yes. A straight-up issue to homage to Powers, featuring...
Guest starring Brian Michael Bendis.
As himself.
When I saw that, I knew what it was, because I'm a big Powers fan. I was like, oh, it's like the Warren Ellis. And I was like, wait, was that issue 7 also? And they actually do address that in the back. I wish I'd known that before I did my independent research. But yeah, there's a couple of 2-page spreads that are definite homages. They get the vibe of a Brian Michael Bendis script and page layout across.
Usually when you see giant dialogue bubbles, like endless dialogue bubbles, unless it's Brian Michael Bendis, it just falls apart. But that was awesome.
Yeah, like a Bendis dialogue tree, you actually remain engaged. It's a conversation.
It's like that David Mamet back and forth.
Yeah.
That Bendis is so famous for kind of homaging himself.
Absolutely.
Well, that's it for the bottom 5. All right, top 5. Coming in at number 5, which might go down as the most well-written comic of all time.
Yeah. He's going to be nominated for an Eisner.
Rocket Raccoon issue number 5. The almost silent issue.
You know I'm down for Rocket.
Yeah.
It might as well have been a silent issue.
Might as well.
But the fact that it wasn't lended an air of humor.
It adds a whole layer of comedy to it. I don't know if you guys noticed it wasn't all Scotty Young.
Well, Scotty Young only did the beginning.
Yeah, Scotty Young did the framing stuff, and then Jake Parker did the actual story that Groot is telling.
Yeah.
Great stuff.
Starts off at a campfire, and Groot wants to hear a story. Rocket tells no story. Tells Groot to tell it himself, so he does. In the only 3 words that he knows how.
I am Groot. I am Groot. I am Groot. I am Groot.
And they did a really successful job of telling the story.
Yeah, at no point did I was like, I don't understand what's going on, or I'm bored by this, or I'm upset that I just paid $4 for this comic and there's no story in it, but... Because there is a story. It is told perfectly.
And it's cute. I
really
hate to say it, it's really cute.
Next up, coming in at number 4 on our list, from Brubaker, it is Velvet issue number 8. and to get us caught up on Velvet.
Yeah, technically, this may have made it higher in the top 5 because on its merits. We haven't all necessarily read it yet. I'm an issue behind, but we know that it belongs on the top 5 because it's a gem. It's a consistent high watermark in comics. And Dave Jordan did read it and can attest to that fact.
Probably should have been at number 2.
Well, Ed Brubaker has never kept his love of espionage a secret. It was all the way through his Captain America run and through the Marvels project, but this is essentially everything he's learned from experimenting with that genre boiled down to just practically perfect espionage comics. And the art is fantastic. I think it's the best Steve Epting has ever looked. And Betty Breitweiser is just... Wow. She's unbelievable. She's doing work in this that I've never seen comics colored quite like this. Her palette choice is always unique. It's always interesting, and she's doing this almost impressionistic treatment of the lighting in the environments.
Absolutely.
Yeah, definitely probably should have been number 2 on the list.
So, coming in at number 3...
Detective Comics number 36. It is The Terminal Part 2. The art for Batman in this is... It's got, like, Fox, you were saying, like a year 1 feel to it.
Yeah.
John Paul Leon deserves to be on all top 5 lists.
Yeah,
definitely.
That was the consensus when we were done with this. It doesn't matter what the top 5 is, he's on.
And Dave Stewart on colors.
Never a bad choice.
Yeah.
King of colors.
I mean, he's the absolute best colorist of all time. Without a doubt, always picks the perfect palette for every story.
Yeah, I love him on all Mignolaverse books that he does. Everything. It's always great.
Yeah.
Very moody.
I would love to see the two of them team up and just do a totally silent Batman comic. I mean, probably... Does such a thing exist?
I'd buy 100 issues of that.
Yeah.
Seriously.
Well...
Yeah. John Paul Leon, I didn't know him before, but I'm going to pay attention to that name now.
Really?
No, what else did he do?
You've never read, like, Earth X?
Oh, he did Earth X?
Yeah.
Awesome. Yeah, no, I like that.
Yeah.
The character designs in that are awesome.
Also, Wintermen?
I haven't read that.
Oh,
I read Winter World.
No, you guys gotta read Wintermen.
What's that?
I don't want to take up the time. You guys just gotta read it. Just trust me.
Okay.
It's like Cold War Watchmen.
Okay, let's go. I got some Wintermen to go read. No, coming in at number 2, it is The Amazing Spider-Man, issue 9, which is the Spider-Verse.
Part 1!
R1.
We're here!
Yes.
We made it to Spider-Verse, and Oliver Coipel has opened the door into Awesome Town.
Yeah, after what seemed like an entire event in and of itself to get us here.
The march to Spider-Verse.
That was intense.
That was a march I enjoyed.
And a lot of stuff, yeah, and a lot of stuff happened coming out of that. I mean, tons of new characters are getting their own books based on it.
Totally.
All kinds of cool stuff. Crazy time to be a Spider-Man fan.
This is
very excited for this issue.
It's kind of like an event book light, except that it's probably had as many tie-in issues as the March to Axis.
Certainly better ones.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know what the recipe is other than that your heart is in it. You can tell that everybody who's worked on this project, so many creators, and all of them are having a blast doing it.
Well, what I liked about the way they structured this event, and I wish they did more events similar to this, is they didn't necessarily take over a bunch of other books. Spider-Man 2099 being the one exception that I can think of off the top of my head.
Yeah, it had a tie-in.
We can call this a character event.
Yeah, and then they just, when they needed more books, they just printed more books. They made the other 4 books.
Yeah, they made a mini-series
to
support the series.
They didn't call up 4 or 5 creative teams and were like, hey, put everything you're doing on hold. We need you to tell these stories.
Totally, yeah. They actually created new creative teams to do amazing work.
Creativity? That's crazy. I love the final few pages.
Oh yeah, the epilogue with the we finally have a name for Moreland's family, the Inheritors.
Yeah.
And it means what you think it would mean.
It means you inherit everything. There was also a tie-in to this book that came out this week.
Yeah.
Featuring some other characters and a little bit of Spider-Ham.
Yeah, more backup stories, non-essential, ultimately. Christos Gage is a cool writer, but it wasn't as good as like the Superior Spider-Man annual that he did at the end of Superior Spider-Man. That was like almost better than the series had been for 10 issues. But in this case, the backup stories are like cool if you're obsessed, but not necessary.
Yeah.
All right, number 1.
Now
We called it last week.
We did.
Said actually last week we said 1 through 5 would all be Tooth and Claw.
It is a double-sized issue, so it could have been 2
This
books.
could have been number 1 and 2 on the list.
1 point now.
Coming in at 1 point now, Tooth and Claw, number 1, by everyone that you should love if you don't already.
Would you say it's a perfect book?
Well, we were discussing a little bit earlier, we all kind of had the same vibe at the beginning where it was like, man, I hope by the end I'm going to love this as I think I should love it. But at the beginning it's not it's not awkward at all. It's just, it's its own thing.
It's such a rich world.
Yeah.
That they've clearly put so much time developing and building the history of it. To be dropped directly into it just takes a little bit of adjustment.
Totally. And
the adjustment is all on the reader. It's not on the creative team. From the very beginning, they're firing on all cylinders.
Totally.
Mm-hmm. And it's a drop-dead gorgeous book.
Yeah, the character designs are awesome. The costume designs are awesome. The world that they live in looks great. The way that the magic is illustrated just blows me away.
The way that the magic is labeled?
The words that they use to describe certain spells.
It's vulvular dilation.
There is vulvular dilation in this book. That is no exaggeration.
Sorry, I had to get it in there.
It's clearly a very... There's no shortcuts anywhere in this issue.
No.
In terms of world building, in terms of art, in terms of writing, it's all 5-star work. I mean,
super lovingly crafted. Super, there are things that Ben Dewey's doing with the art that, like, all of the background characters, how they're more simply illustrated, it just adds so much. Like, it adds, like, a depth of field to the camera.
He's implying impressionism.
Yeah.
And depth of field
atmospheric distortion.
where it needs to be.
Mm-hmm. Really, really excellent. And by the end of this issue, I was exclaiming out loud. I was laughing to myself. I ran the emotional gamut. I was terrified and worried for these characters. There's some heavy stuff that happens.
Also, colors by Eisner Award-winning Jordi Belair, who is the rock star of the industry.
Totally.
I mean, you know, she's second only to Dave Stewart, I think.
And even that is, only because Dave has so much more work under his belt, but she's gaining on him at this point. He doesn't color as many books. Nobody sane colors as many books as Jordi does.
But you know, in terms of like picking the perfect palette for each job and doing unique color choices depending on the project, she's up there with him.
And it doesn't call attention to itself. It doesn't, like, it's in service of the lines.
Yeah.
And it all looks like unified. It's all one world.
Yeah, I mean, it feels like a real world. And I loved how much I wanted to analyze their rituals and their cultures. It looks like a real world.
And it's a hell of a cliffhanger.
Oh my god. Yeah, I cannot wait to read the next issue.
Also, it's 48 pages for $3.
No ads. That sound effect, explosion, whatever, the 3D text. Oh, that's so cool. Oh, and the colors coming out of it. That's
gorgeous.
That's definitely a moment of, like, team alignment.
Yeah,
we've got the promotional image for Tooth and Claw hanging right back there behind you.
It's a little early to say for sure, but I think that the top of my image hierarchy is going to need some restructuring.
Yeah, I mean,
which is pretty much the top of my comics hierarchy.
This is a book worthy of cutting more books from your pull list to make room for this.
Totally. Yeah, if you're like, I'm on a budget, I can't try a new series, stop reading whatever other book you were reading.
Speaking of things that Foxy read this week, that Foxy wants to talk about.
Yeah!
Talk about.
This was the first book I read of this week's things.
Now,
hype.
Are we sure that Foxy likes this because it's good and not just because it's orange and black and white and has an animal on the cover?
It's true, you are known for biases.
I do like talking animal comics. This animal doesn't talk, though.
That's true.
The story in Kinski is pretty basic. It doesn't sound like it would be that dark. It doesn't sound like it'd be as dark as it is. It reads like a noir story. And this guy, the main character, who finds this dog, and he's like, oh, it's lost, it doesn't have a home. But then he wants to keep it, even though they haven't really looked for the owners much. And he just kind of, his whole life is unraveling, and we don't ever know why. Even at the end of the story, you don't know why he's so bad at life. But it's just great to follow this period of his life. And unlike most noir stories, everyone doesn't die at the end, so that's also interesting. It's not going to ruin. Like, this was the first thing I read in the morning. I didn't have to go lay down for the rest of the day.
A comic about a guy that finds a dog.
Yeah.
It is remarkably affecting, and it really does have that strong noir story feel to it and structure to it.
But I don't know, everybody knows people like that are just permanently, like, they just can't get their life together.
Yeah.
No matter how hard they try. It just doesn't happen for them.
But maybe it's all for the best, right?
Maybe they can adopt a puppy. Or steal one.
Yeah, you just keep stealing them until one sticks.
Were we going to talk about
Oh, yeah!
some of his stuff also?
Words of the show. Dave
Words
Jordan.
Of the show be Dave Jordan.
Dave Jordan's
That's
the
a
words
twist
of the
of
show.
fate.
You actually have started making comics. You've been a long-time comic reader, but I've never really seen comics output from you until
I think this point
last...
is a little bit beyond readership.
Well, yeah. Comics are your life in every way you can interpret that, but now you're actually starting to illustrate them. Is
true.
Is it just new that you're sharing it, or is it new that you're actually drawing them too?
It's actually pretty new that I'm drawing.
When you posted your work, everyone seemed to gravitate towards the cat drawings and the panels with cats in them, both transitioning out of shadows and laying on the couch. So
Yeah.
my recommendation to you is an all cats comic. That's give the
An
people what they want.
all-animal comic
Well-
from Foxy? No.
Yeah, I know. It's
a shocker.
It's not really the thing I would normally ask for.
Well, people love cat comics. But there's also a lot of cat comics that exist already.
But not that you've drawn.
Not that I've drawn, but I feel like...
They could be cats with Kirby hands.
Kirby paws?
Yeah, Kirby paws. Just call it Kirby paws.
I can't say...
It writes itself.
I can't say it's out of the question, but I feel like if I'm going to throw my hat into the cat comic ring, I'd have to do something to make it unique, and I don't know what that would be.
Kirby Paws sounds pretty unique.
Kirby paws. Yeah,
Kirby paws. But then what else?
You need something else?
I think you need something else.
Are we storyboarding right now? What are we doing?
Yeah, let's spitball. I'll give you guys co-creator credit.
Oh, good.
Well, I mean, Kirby paws implies some sort of cosmic energy. There's
Sure.
got to be crackle. So there's probably space also.
Right.
Space cats, Kirby paws,
Space
crackle. I don't think they should be in spaceships.
Right.
So I think that's it.
We'll see. We'll see.
Gotta get that catnip.
And but then I thought the difference between your first comic and your second comic was pretty pronounced, actually. The gray tones had progressed really nicely. You're getting like a quick handle on things, which is also to say that the first comic was very consistent. Like, even though you were probably learning as you were going, you didn't change things to reflect that as you were drawing. You know, you kept it in style, but then the very next thing you did is clearly a step forward. So that's nice.
Well, thank you.
And then
there were a few moments in the first one, actually, that I did go back and redraw.
Oh, okay.
Because the amount of progression that I had over 20 pages was apparent to me in some spots. So I did go back and I would redraw half a page here, or redo a panel here or there, just to kind of make things more consistent. But I also was I was conscious that I had to keep it consistent. And I got some feedback from other people that caused me to go back and reassess some earlier stuff and not change things, but develop them a little bit more on the page to keep it all kind of consistent throughout.
That's cool. That's good to hear. I think it's always nice to talk about process like this, because it can, shake other people loose.
Sure.
So that they feel like, oh, maybe if that guy can do a thing, maybe I can do a thing. So,
yeah. Everybody can do it.
Totally. No, I've always said that. Anyone who draws, if you draw out in the world, you will hear people invariably you will hear people say like, "Oh, I wish I could draw." You can. That's always my response. You can. You're just not doing it.
Yeah.
If you start drawing, you will actively be drawing, and then you can draw.
Everybody has their own style, and everybody develops differently. And
well, when should we expect the new comic to drop?
I'm almost done penciling it. This one's 8 pages.
Can you tell us what the concept is? Tease it. Is it Commandi meets Terminator plus My Little Pony?
It's set. It's set in space.
I know what that would look like.
It's set in space.
It's set in space.
Are there cats with crackle pods?
There's no cats.
Okay.
But that is presenting its own challenge that I'm having to figure out. Is
drawing space.
How to draw space.
Are you approaching Kirby's space?
No. Kirby did space his own way, and I don't think anybody else could do it that way.
I've seen it done. I don't know.
Yeah, but I want to do my space.
That's cool.
I don't want to do Kirby's space.
You want to do my space?
On Facebook now, dude. You don't want to do
yeah, you want to.
I want to do my own
Your
version
comic will
of
die
space.
if you send it to my space.
But you know, that's presenting its own challenge because the idea was drawing environments is very time consuming. So I was like, my next comic, just as a joke, I was like, my next comic is I'm going to do in space so I don't have to draw environments.
Yeah, that's easier.
No, it's not easier.
It's still
space is way more difficult.
I absolutely fear drawing space, so
yeah.
Kudos to you. I look forward to seeing how you would tackle that problem.
And because I could just do it digitally and just drop in a JPEG of space, but
No.
like, I don't want to do that.
That's weak sauce.
I want to learn how to do it.
Yeah.
It's part of the process.
Cool.
So it's a challenge, but so hopefully next week sometime
Oh wow.
the new one will be up.
Cool. Well,
It's only 8 pages and I'm almost done penciling it. So
thanks for coming out talking shop with us, Dave.
thanks for having me.
It was a pleasure to have you.
You're our first on camera voice,
That's true. It's true. The first on-camera voice of
named and all.
wow.
That's
Dave
bold.
Jordan.
Dave Jordan, bold man.
All right. Well, that's gonna do it for this week's episode of
The Max is Super Awesome Comic Review Show.
Comic review show.
Comic Review Show.
You always gotta check when the microphone is on. Is all I have to say about that song.
Yeah.
Anyway, we'll be back here next time with more great comics and
Probably some not so great ones.
probably not some so great ones, but hopefully something from Dave Jordan as well.
Yeah,
So,
hopefully.
all right.
See you then.
Till next time, stay frosty.
I knew it.